So my first question to you is like, what excites you the most about school?
Oh man. Well, I think when I first started at school, it was kind of my first introduction into this space, right? Like info space, online communities, people like doing really unique, interesting things and making a good living online. And I think that's like what's most interesting right now. Is just all these characters that come up and all these niches and things that like when I show my friends and family what's happening on school, they're like, I never would have thought this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's really, really cool. And it's awesome to see that, you know, people of all interests and backgrounds can like find their people on school and hang out and have a good time, and have a really good vibe. I think that's what's most interesting right now.
Nice. When did you start at school? And how did that even like come about?
Right, right. So I've been at school for 4 years, almost exactly. And the company's about 5 years old. So I was one of the earliest employees. I was the first product manager. And how it came about was, we could go into a whole episode about my entire background, but I was working in supply chain, aerospace, and defense at the time, and realized after kind of a long career in that it wasn't for me. And I would like to get back into software, which I had done in my earlier careers. So I was looking for jobs kind of in product management and software. And I saw this job ad on LinkedIn for this kind of cool sounding company called Skool. At the time, I didn't really know what it entailed. I had never heard of Sam. I had never really seen that side of the industry. But a couple months later, Sam called me and said, "Hey, you have a lot of ops experience, aerospace companies, like rockets and stuff. Like, why did you apply to work here?" And we just had a good chat about my background and things we liked. We talked about products and kind of our tastes. And we really got along. So it was just a good fit from the beginning. And that's how I got in 4 years ago.
Interesting. Was it what you thought it would be, or was it something completely different when you actually started working?
Well, when I first started, to be frank, I thought it was like a K through 12 software education platform. And back then, the we were just focused on the product really and what it could do. So it took a lot of like um, asking questions to Sam about, okay, well, what is the industry? What's the opportunity? What are we trying to build here? What are the features that you think are important? And it, turned out to be a lot different than like a K through 12 type of thing. But back then it was, there wasn't a lot of visible information about the company. To get into school, you had to join a wait list, right? It wasn't open for everybody. So that was my initial impression. But after talking to him, I was like, oh, okay, under the hood, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. So I'm interested.
When did you like first realize that? Like, did you realize from the get go that this could be like huge, or was it like a point where like, oh, like this can actually be pretty
Pretty,
big?
within a couple of conversations, I kind of had started to realize what the opportunity was. Particularly, again, just learning about some of these info businesses. And at the time, it was a little more high ticket, but just understanding what's going on in the industry and like what niches are available and just like how great of a living some of these people are making and what like a cool all these people they're meeting, like again, goes back to good vibes. Like that was interesting. So I thought, okay, this is I think this could be an opportunity, let's go for it.
Interesting. Were
Hmm.
there like any part of the like journey where it felt very like tough, or there were like challenges either from like your side or from the team side, was like it was really tough?
We've been really blessed that like Sam has been in the industry a long time and has a really good name and loyal customers. He's the real deal. And I think that for that reason, we've been fortunate that usually like our roadmap for the product is pretty clear and we have great users who would love to collaborate with us and figure that out. So on the product side, it's it hasn't always been easy, but at least we've had, like a vision and a direction and a place to go. And actually, it's too many ideas. We have to really prioritize what to do. That's the main problem. So we've been really, really blessed there. I would say that, you know, challenges along the way. I think probably right now is a point of challenge, and not in a bad way, but we're a scaling company. We're growing our headcount, we're growing the users, adding more features, and that just comes with you know, you have to kind of level up your own company, each step of the way. So it's a constant like challenge, but in a good way. It's nothing that's like defeating or anything. Like, they're fun problems to solve, and the fact that we get to solve them is like, hey, we're successful. You know what I mean? Each level of success brings a new challenge. So that's what's nice.
Because something happened like this, like November, December, because I thought that I knew I thought I kind of understood how big Skool were going to be. And then this year, it feels like Skool has just become something huge. Like, everybody talks about Skool right now. Like, why do you think that happened? And have you guys has it changed a lot on the back end, like how you work on Skool? Has it become like more work, or like how does that kind of affect you guys in the back end?
Yeah, so I think how it happened, the reason why you're seeing Skool more often, I think there were a couple of key things, right? Like, number one, we enabled payments. That was a big feature, so that now you could charge, and make a living on the platform itself and not have to have a stack of different tools. So that was one of them. That's kind of what brought a lot of people over from, various other competing platforms, that you had that ability. So, okay, now we have that ability. And then we, had a great partnership with Alex Hormozy that brought a lot of attention. That was fantastic. I think he's been a really good fit for us, and us for him, both in his audience and what he brings to our platform. And then I think that kind of at the same time, a lot of folks who were early in the platform and using a lot of the features, and particularly payments, have now really been outspoken about how much they love Skool. You're in a Skool sweatshirt right now, and I've seen it. I've seen you in your Skool sweatshirt all over Instagram, and you're not the only one. I'm seeing logos all over the place. We printed merch, we sent it out to all our power users. We've been really like developing the product with our users hand in hand, and I think it goes a long way, and people are starting to like tell people about it. And that was one of the things we always set out to do, is like make a product so good that people tell their friends. And that's kind of a great marketing strategy, right? And then anything we do beyond that is just fuel to the fire.
How do you make a product good, though, so people talk about it? It's easier said than done, right?
Yeah, well, we didn't rush anything. It's like I said, Skool's about 5 years old, and for a lot of those 5 years, it was just getting the product perfect, and not even considering, other aspects, like the business model, and, a lot of the things that you can get caught up in later on as you grow as a company. We just went the long tail and said, okay, let's make the best product we can. And that meant really analyzing what the needs of the users are, really diving into their feedback and what they have to say, and ultimately saying no to a lot of stuff, or building stuff and realizing it was the wrong thing to build, and taking it away. So there was a lot of that back and forth for years and years and years. And I mean, very detailed work, not just, oh, let's throw out a feature. It's like we, pixel perfect polishing on every feature, just make sure that it's great. And, the simplicity of the platform is the result of like years and years of hard work. So that's, that's how it happened.
Yeah, because Skool is like, if you check other options on how to build courses, a lot of them are like very complex, and you have to like look around and find and build stuff. And like, Skool is very simplistic. Like, is there a lot of work and like thinking behind that simplicity, or? Yeah,
there is. Yeah. Everything from how you kind of structure the architecture to how everything fits together. And just removing things that are unnecessary and questioning everything, right? One of our, just every now and again, we ask what can be deleted, or, is this necessary? Or if something's too complicated, just can we remove it? And that's just something we always ask.
Why do you think the school games blew up?
Well, I think it's a unique thing, in the industry. It's like here we have a really interested, engaged community of people all doing the same thing. And now we have a competition, and a leaderboard about it, which is just, leaderboards have a funny, like, effect on people's mindsets, right? Even if there's no reward, people just want to be on that leaderboard. They want to be number one. They want to be in the top 10. So I think that does an interesting thing to people's psychology. But yeah, man, I think it's just like, and we're pretty public and visible about it. And it's interesting. And again, Alex Hormozy's on board, and he's, like, telling people about it, and you get to come hang out with him in Vegas. It's just, I think it's a unique offer that we've been able to concoct, and it's kind of spread and gained popularity. And again, I think as we've had winners and we've had a few rounds of the school games, like that, the kind of quote unquote winners community is really tight. And now, they're sharing, and they're posting, and they're getting their audience involved and their users involved. So it's kind of just has this natural spread to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree that there's something special with like something stupidly simple as a leaderboard that people just go,
yeah, I know,
absolutely crazy, including myself. Like you're just like, you want to be on the leaderboard.
I know it's there's something to be said about the status of it, right? Even if, like I said, even if there is no reward, just the status of being in the top 10 or in the top 3 or number 1, it gives you something to strive for. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you compare yourself, and you're like, you see those other entrepreneurs, and you're almost like forcing entrepreneurs to, like, you can't ignore it almost if you see a leaderboard. Everybody's want to be on that thing. Nice. So, like, what do you do, like, specifically on Skool?
Boy, well, before, again, I was the first product manager when I started, so it was a lot of interfacing with users, like fixing bugs, like if anything was wrong, just making sure that it gets to the development team and we fix it. After that, as the team scaled a little bit, there was more opportunity to go like into the growth side of things for a little while. So again, I was interfacing with a lot of users and influencers and just trying to get the word out more. And that was really fun. Met a lot of great people, spread the word about Skool, promoted, which, eventually led us down, to the deal we have now. And now that the team has grown to a certain size, it's kind of just like I go to where the problems are, or where the attention needs to be. And the attention this year has just been on the internal team, right? So now that we're a bigger company, we're not huge by any means, but a bigger company, there's need for like great benefits, right? And making sure that the team culture internally is really good, and that we're getting people together every so often, because we are a remote team. Just getting people together to have fun, things like that. So that's kind of been the focus of this year, as we've scaled. And in addition to that, there's also an operations element to my job with scaling customer support, scaling moderation, things like that.
And these are like, all of these things are people, or things that people or school community owners need to like eventually start to do as well. Maybe not at the extent that you guys are doing it, but still like managing your community and like learning operations, and maybe find some good people, et cetera, and build a culture as well, as you said. Like, do you have any like specific guidelines for people, like specifically people who run school communities, on kind of what to think about when you try to find and hire people and build a team and build a culture? And yeah.
So I think the first thing is just try not to hire if you can. And I don't mean like don't hire by any means, but I mean hire like where it hurts. If you're not feeling the pain, you probably don't need to hire somebody. So hire where like you're personally experiencing a lot of pain. So for example, to make it relatable, if you have a big community like Max Free or something, and you're trying to make that community like great in a certain way, maybe there's a lot of spam, or maybe there's just need for moderation. Maybe there's a need to kind of reinforce some of the rules of your community, right? How we do things. And you personally, as the owner, are having to do a lot of that, and it's taking away from, there's an opportunity cost, something you could be doing. Okay, then maybe it's time to hire that community manager, right? Maybe it's time to hire that person, but don't rush into the hiring process, because with more people comes inevitably, people are great, but it can cause more complexity, right? So there's number one, like on hiring, and who to look for. And as far as, finding the right fits, just there is a lot of feel involved, and I always like to think, can I be friends with this person? At the end of the day, we have to work, and it is a bit of like joining a sports team in a way. Everyone's got to earn their place, and everyone has to perform. But as we do, can we have fun together, and can we hang out? That's big.
Like, where do you find people though? Like, do you go out, just look for them somewhere, or like?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a number of ways, but more specifically for us now, we can reach out to like people who are enthusiastic about Skool, right? And it depends on the position. But, and for people with their communities, it's, if you have a community that's of a relatively reasonable size, chances are there's someone in there who's standing out, right? There's someone in there helping people. There's someone in there doing some of that work without being asked, right? And I would encourage community owners to interface with those people, right? And whether that means you hire them or you don't, that's up to you. But like, that can be a great way. Like, use your own community, or post about jobs in your community. We do that with Skool community all the time. Like, hey, we're looking for someone in this area with this skill set, and we just send them to like a Google form or something, and we get a lot of applicants that way from people who are excited about what we do and want to play a part, right? So in your communities, you could do the same thing. Just kind of like crowdsource, get some inbound traffic to your job postings. And then, obviously, if you need someone specific and headhunt, then LinkedIn is your friend. Like, go find the people with the right skills, and try and make them an offer they can't refuse to come work with you.
Yeah, because like, this is what kind of Sam said as well on the event. Like, you can find people in your community. I was like, who can I hire? And I was like, oh yeah, this guy Dylan, he's already helping me with a bunch of free stuff. And
totally.
He ended up becoming the community manager, and he's amazing, like, lifesaver.
Yeah.
So
see, you're an example. It's just like, sometimes the people are right in front of you. You just have to ask, or just say, hey, like, promote people in a way. Hey, this person's in my community. They're really great. I would like them to do more, and promote them. Whatever that means for you.
And they already know you, they know the product, they know everything, they know the culture. You just like, it has been the easiest. Like, salespeople that we use right now, we call them specialists. Also, I don't need to train anything. It's just like, they already know everything. It's
it's great. User communities that way. I'm sure if they're in your community, that's already a win. And then I'm sure they're enthusiastic about being there. So work with that.
Yeah. Nice. Like, where do you think, like, what does Skool look like in 3 years?
Well, probably, realistically, not terribly different than what it looks like now, except that, our mission is really to help as many people find their community as possible, right? So I think that there will be feature sets around that, like more types of features to get people to discover, right, their communities, find their people online. I think that it's just kind of a graduation from like you take where we're at now. Just imagine 3 years of continuing at this, really asking the right questions on how to support that goal of getting people to find their communities, right? So I can see a lot more communities. I can see a lot more users. I can see, this in regards to like the Skool games and competitions. Like, imagine what those will be like. Like, I think it'll be really interesting, in some of the things people are doing on the platform that are interesting, and then the living that they're able to make from that. I'm really, really excited, so I think the roadmap is just grow a lot and help the users like any way we can.
It feels like there's a lot of bigger creators now who start to like realize that, oh,
Mm,
like people are actually making pretty good money from their audiences, and even people without audiences make really really good money on School. So it
yeah.
could be interesting to see when those bigger people come in and they bring their audiences of millions of people. And
Yeah, like I
yeah,
said, I think that's starting to happen and will just continue to happen in the future. So, like I said, more users on the platform finding the things that they're interested in and making friends.
are
That'll
you
be
part
cool.
of any specific communities on School?
I am, yeah. So as you can see in my background, I'm a bit of a musician, a guitar addict. But yeah, I'm in a couple music communities, some like audio engineering communities, and then I'm also in this community. One of my favorites is called Possessed by Metal. It's a heavy metal
Oh yeah, yeah.
community. Yeah, yeah, you know that one. It's great. A lot of like old interviews from the '80s with all these '80s and
Oh,
'90s from all these old rock stars, like Slayer and Slash and Typo Negative, all these old interviews. They're really cool to listen through. So, and that's a great one. It's relatively inexpensive and it's really fun. And I think that that's honestly part of like my favorite thing on School is just kind of the more niche ones
mm.
that you know are just like, hey, I have all these old interview tapes. I want to upload them, and for $5 or $10 a month, you can join the community and listen and talk with us. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you think is like, because this is a big problem, like with, or I don't want to say problem, but it's a thing that a lot of School community owners are trying to combat now, which is like the retention side of things. Like, how do we
Oh,
keep people in our communities? And I feel like if you're in the community, like you said, you just enjoy being there and the price is
mhm.
right, you're just gonna stay there. But do you feel like
Yeah.
there's something else to it as well that can like help people with retaining like people on School?
Yeah, I think relating to people's communities and their members and retaining your members, um, get your members like some quick wins as soon as they're in, right? We have action posts for that. You can pin posts, highlighting people's accomplishments. You can share wins. You can have them, one really powerful thing is it only takes 5 likes to reach level 2. And then they can unlock, something like a course or an interview or something special. So there are these little incentives built in that you can really utilize to retain your members and keep them engaged and keep them interested. And then just, talking to people, honestly, just ask your power users why they stay, ask your churned members why they left, and keep grinding on your product.
Do you think like market feedback from people is like the key to a successful community? Like talking with, like as you said, like the power users,
I
or
would say, I mean,
uh,
at the base of it, a community is for people. And if it's not resonating for whatever reason, then get that feedback and figure it out. And maybe you need to just improve. It could be something small. I don't know. Um, but if something's not working, get as much feedback as you can, because that's the only way
mm,
you're gonna know. And it's like you could. I encourage people to directly talk to whoever's in your group or whoever's churned or whatever, because you could ask yourself why something's happening, sure, but you could just ask them and it'd be easier. They'll probably tell you. You know what I mean? So rather than come up with a theory on your own as to why people might be leaving, just ask why they're leaving and get the answer.
yeah. And if you just like go back a bit, then like before you start with School, like did you have like, what are like the main experiences from those jobs? Would you say that you kind of use on School right now? And do you have any like weird thing that helps you to like make a big impact on School? If you can put it in that, is this something you use?
Boy, again, my career before School was I had a lot of interesting but really tough and brutal jobs. I worked in the music industry. I did some aerospace at SpaceX. I did defense. I was in the defense
Oh,
industry
damn.
for a while. I did, yeah, managing, you know, millions and $1 million of purchase orders, just having like a global view, just being able, and I would say, to answer your question, it's just like understanding how like a business and operation works and how you need to communicate really effectively and quickly with a lot of different stakeholders, and deliver results, right? And so each project, like I've taken products from prototype to, mass market, like high volume. We went from, in like aerospace, it was like, hey, we have these prototypes for these rockets and now they're launching, right? So it's like how to get those things, done, and done efficiently and quickly, and also when to raise your hand when things are going off course, and how to get support, So it's a culmination of things. I wouldn't say there's one thing necessarily, but it's just the life experience of building products and shipping them. I think that's what's most helpful.
Have you like ever like dabbled into like the entrepreneurial thing and kind of wanted to start that, or have you been like on the like started a career path and like getting those like in those bigger companies and working in those bigger companies, or
Yeah,
what's that look
it's
like?
kind of interesting. To go back before I even started working, my degree in college was in business, and I studied like entrepreneurship specifically. So putting together, ideas and business plans and budgets and how to get stuff done. So, it's funny to think back then, I had no life experience, so I had no idea, how to get any of that done. But it was a good kickoff point. That's where it really started my interest personally. And
Mm.
then just, I started working and got into these different jobs. But then a little bit after SpaceX, I decided I wanted to do my own company, which I had started with a friend doing electronics for like guitars. And that was really fun. We had a couple of products that, I think on the product side, they were a success. Like people who bought them really liked them. We had sold out of each run we did. It ultimately didn't scale. Like it was me and my buddy in my garage, like soldering circuit boards and stuff. And to take it to the next level would have required a lot of capital and and probably market share that we didn't quite have at the time. So it wasn't sustainable from a cash perspective, right? So I had to close it down and get another job. But through that process, though, I learned about, it's funny. You have an idea for a product and you build it and you have a prototype and it's great. And then the question always comes like, well, how are you going to sell it? And I had never thought about that question before, right? And I was like, oh, that's a great question. How am I going to sell it? So that's when I started doing research, like how to do ads, how to do traffic, how to do organic and paid, what YouTube ads look like. So that's kind of how I got into this online money making space, like sales, which isn't exactly like in the info community business, but it's adjacent, right? Because there's a lot of sales involved. There's a lot of questions about traffic. So that's a little bit how I dipped my toes into this online marketing business space, before I got my next job. And then when I talked to Sam, down the road, it was like, okay, I know a little bit about, I at least know a little bit about what you guys are talking about on the sales side.
Mm. Like, what do you think is important though when you build a product, right? So that can go for a school community, or that can go for school now as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is there like a certain process to it, would you say, or is it like build and test and feedback and reiterate, or like what would you like? How do you go about it?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, you're just solving a problem. It's as simple as that. What is the problem? And what's the solution to the problem? Uh, and you're usually solving the problem for yourself, like when you're thinking about what maybe your community should be about or what you're good at or what you should do in business, just try and break it down like that. Like what's what's a problem I experience every day? Or when I go to do this thing, what am I hung up on every time? What's annoying? And try and look at it through that lens. And it becomes really, really clear. And after you've done that, and maybe you have some ideas on how to solve it, then you can take it to some people, right? And get some real feedback. People who might have a similar problem. And if you do that, chances are your first iteration is not going to be very good, or it's, the wrong solution, or maybe even just not a problem that anyone else experiences. Unfortunately, there are those that are only problems for you. But eventually you do that enough times and you reiterate and you ask for feedback. It starts to become more clear, and you start to see the opportunities, and you start to see the patterns, and perhaps even someone's enthusiastic about this problem also and wants to solve it with you. You know what I mean? And maybe you could get, whether it's a partner or just a enthusiastic user or someone, someone in your community, like you can, typically that's how it happens. You find someone who else is really interested in solving this problem and wants to help. Yeah.
Because that is something I hear a lot of people are struggling with when you start out, including myself, like for a long time back and forth. It's like the niche thing, right? It's like,
yeah.
And most of the time people have like a solution to a problem, but they don't know how to market or sell that thing. They don't know how to like tell other people that I have a solution to this problem.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any advice for that for people, or like, how do you like find a problem that others have as well, and how do you actually market and sell that?
Boy, I don't have any like silver bullet solutions other than just talk to a lot of people. And what you'll end up doing a lot is you'll have to do your pitch, right? Some people call it an elevator pitch. Some people make a VSL, and what'll happen is you'll find that either you have to explain it a lot and really sell, or you'll find that they get it right away. Usually it's the first one, at the very beginning. Hey, I have this problem. Here's the solution. And people are like, what? I don't get it. I don't get the problem. I don't get the solution. What are you talking about? So you're like, okay. So you go back to your drawing board and you kind of refine it. And after a while, you getting that problem solution message across razor sharp will end up happening. If you do that enough times and you chip away at it. And there's a great number of tools to do this with, by the way. The one I'm most excited about for the future, and this is for all the community creators, is the About page. The About page is so fantastic in your Skool community as a beginner because it is easy. You can upload some images. You don't have to, but you can make a quick video if you want. You don't have to overthink it, but just put your message there, your basic one, send some traffic to it, and see what happens. You could spend $20 on a Facebook ad, send, X number of people to your About page and see what happens. If anyone joins, hey, that's good. That's positive. You can then talk to those people and see why they joined. Like, what was interesting to you? If they don't, okay, go back to that About page, change some text, change maybe an image, and try it again. And you could do that rapidly. You could do that every day if you wanted to. So that's how I would, in the context of Skool, really try and get my messaging right if I'm a beginner and I maybe have an idea for a problem or a solution, or if I have no idea, just try it out and see what happens.
It's like the perfect feedback mechanism, right? Your product is the community. So you get people into the product, you get feedback in the product. By talking to them.
It's unbelievable, and it's easy and it's quick, like back when I was doing sales for my guitar stuff, my guitar pedals, it was like, to do that loop required, a landing page, maybe it was ClickFunnels. It required, like Facebook ads. It required all this stuff. And it was a lot harder than just signing up for a Skool community, putting in, a basic About page and trying it out. So I would encourage everybody starting out to really utilize that feedback loop as much as you can.
100%. Like, my experience with this was, I thought I was like, I built this custom design funnel and it looked super good. And we had a copywriters and like really good copywriters writing text and a VSL and all of that. We started running ads. We had like 0.3x return on our money on our ad spend. I was like, oh, okay. All right. And then I was like, okay, then the tracking came out to Facebook. I was like, let's try this. And we're close to 3x like return on the ad spend.
Yeah.
And now I just teach people kind of how we run the ads, and people are getting leads for like $2. I'm like, you guys don't understand how fortunate you are. You don't need to do anything. You just build up an about page around traffic to it, and you get leads for $2. It's insane.
It is unbelievable, and it is cool, and it's such a good tool. I'm really excited for people to use that.
Yeah. There's a lot of features on the platform that people are very much looking forward to. Like, there's so much more to come on Skool. Like, I don't know how much we can talk about, but is there any feature you can talk about that you're like very excited about?
Boy, I don't own the roadmap at this point in time, so I probably shouldn't comment. But I will say that, generally speaking, a lot of the things people have been asking for, some of the big hitters, like we'll do those. We just strongly consider what it takes and how we can make it simple and how we can ship a good version that doesn't bog us down. So we're gonna, a lot of those big ones, I can't say what they are exactly, but we'll do the important ones.
Yeah, there will be a lot of good stuff that helps people to just make it easier to convert even more people.
And there will be features around monetization. There will be features around retention. There will be like creator success, but also member success. Like there's these different zones. Like generally speaking, in the product roadmap that I think are really interesting. That'll help, just help everybody. Like I said, either through monetization or retention, or even like things like the about page, right? Like enhancing that to make that even a better offering, so you can test your messages faster, or better tracking, things like that. So that's kind of my political answer. I can't be specific about any feature, but overall, that's kind of what we'll be looking at is some of these enhancements.
A lot of exciting stuff.
Oh, we're so excited. The next year's roadmap is going to be sweet. People are going to be stoked.
I can't wait for that. That's going to be epic. Nice.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What would you say is like, if I want to pick your brain, right? If I want to understand like what is like the biggest strength that you kind of bring to Skool in a way with a team and like with the staff, and like how can somebody like myself or somebody who like want to learn what you do for Skool to improve our own businesses and communities, like, do you have any principles or guidelines or like books or I don't know, something that people can learn from?
So for me personally, well, I think you have to ask yourself what exactly you want to be doing, right? And what skill set is required. I think that in my case, I'm very much a people person. I like to make sure everyone's doing good and having a good time, and that we're talking a lot. And I think that if the vibe is really good, then the work will be really good. And Sam even says that too. Like people who are in stressed out companies and that are tough, they don't end up making very good products, right? Because they're not happy to be there. They're just there to work. So it's like, okay, how do we make Skool the best place to work so that we make a really great product that everyone's really excited for? So again, like in terms of what I do at Skool and what I think I bring to the table, what's interesting and what I encourage others to do is just talk to your employees, right? Talk to the people who work with you. One thing we always ask ourselves at Skool is how can we make it fun? It's actually like one of our core values. And it's a funny value because it's a question, but it's how can we make it fun? And I think when you ask that question, it actually resolves a lot of pain in your company. If you're struggling with a problem or you're struggling with performance of an employee or a team, try and ask yourself that question: like, how can we make it fun? And I think that's really interesting. But other than that, like other things I bring to the table, aside from like people management and just being a great guy and pushing people along and communicating. Just trying to manage the operation, right? And how to like anticipate the problems that might come up, and how do we put in the red flag mechanisms, right? So something is off KPI, how do we go address it? And who addresses it, and what should happen in that case, So just having a bit of an ops mindset in that way, and just, there's a million things in a company that you need to manage, and how are you going to do that? That's basically it. I I wouldn't say there's this, like, again, probably no silver bullets from like my experience or my secrets or anything. It's just like what you do every day, which is treat people well and be detail oriented and try and solve the problems and manage the thing, you know.
What's the most important KPI in the business or in school?
It depends on what side of it that you're talking about. I think one of them though is like how successful the creators are. And that's actually, you know, of all KPIs we have, and there's a number of ways you can measure that. You can measure, like in the school games, it's very obvious, right? We have leaderboards and there's MRR, there's all that, but also how, like, what the retention is like. And so we put a lot of emphasis actually, and there's like our own internal metrics and things that are important for Skool, the company. But I think one of the most important ones is how successful are the creators on Skool? And if we can get anything we can do to move the creators on Skool along and make them more successful, either with better monetization or more engagement or retention, things like that, I think those are the metrics we're usually most interested in.
Because that is going to ultimately just impact and make the platform better and experience better for everybody then. Yeah.
It's going to make everyone's lives better, you know, like it'll help us in our mission to help 1 billion people find their communities, you know?
Oh.
Yeah.
And why is it important to have fun in a company? How does that affect things?
Boy, I mean, if you're not having fun, what are you doing? You know, it's like, I'll give you an example. Like, other jobs I've had have been fun in other ways, but ultimately, like, people leave if they're not having fun. You know, they'll go the path of least resistance in a lot of ways. Like, there's a difference between challenging and just like soul crushing. You know what I mean? And I think that in my experience, if you can make it fun and interesting for people and people laugh, like that's really powerful. And a lot of companies don't do that. Like, honestly, it seems crazy. It seems like second nature. Like, oh yeah, make the workplace fun. Like, try and be friends with your employees, you know, try and make it a nice place to work. But that actually can be overlooked. And I think that the companies who have, you know, when you talk about retention of your employees, I think that's probably one of the number one things is like, is it fun? Yeah, I would say, I'd say that's super important.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's pretty obvious when you just from the outside look in at Skool. It's colorful. Like, your guys' office is like, it's very like colorful and fun in there as well. But I assume also that you might do some like activities with the team, and it's like about like getting people together, I guess.
Yeah. We try and get everybody together a few times a year in person, and we'll go do something fun. You know, we'll go to an amusement park, or we'll rent a yacht, or we'll go do go-karts or something, just to get people together and bonding. You know, I think that it's kind of funny in these online remote spaces. People have asked me, like, how do I have more fun with my team, or how do I build a better relationship? And I'm like, well, when was the last time you guys saw each other? They're like, oh, we've never met in person ever. I'm like, okay, how often do you talk? Oh, once a week. It's like, you talk once a week and you've never ever met? Like, so you're basically talking to a stranger every week. You know, you need to fix that. So try and talk every day if you're a remote team, and any chance you get, bring people together and have a good time. You know, like, when you're in person, that's when these emergent opportunities come up. You know, these little, oh, you play guitar? I play guitar too. You know, just those little things. Or, you know, you like root beer? I love root beer. Anything. It could be anything. And it's interesting when it happens. You know, taking a remote team offline and into a real space. Like, I've seen it. I've seen it work, and it really does. So that's, yeah.
So if you start to build a smaller team, then, like you said, like talking twice per week or once per week is maybe not ideal. Would you recommend that people talk like once per day, or like half an hour?
It totally depends on the context, right? So in many cases, I recommend having a stand-up, which is what most software companies will do, and a lot of regular companies too, right? So meet once per day at a set time. So there's no question on when you're going to meet. But you just talk about what you did yesterday and what you're going to do today. And if there's any
Hmm.
blockers, if there's anything in the way, if there's anything you guys need to discuss, you can chat. And that at least is a regular cadence where you guys are chatting every day and working on this business together. But also leave a little room for spontaneity, leave a little room for fun. Um, we have, usually in a stand up, someone will bring something funny, like a movie they saw or a show they're watching. There's a little bit of discussion there. And then internally, we have like a Slack channel that's for fun only. So people can post memes there. They can post, videos there, whatever they want. So just do things like that, like encourage fun in your digital communication, like over Slack. But also just make sure you're meeting at least every day if you need to. And again, it depends on what you're working on and how closely you need to talk with your team. But if you're experiencing issues with your team, probably my first inclination would be to spend more time together and see what's going on.
So if you take this very complex, kind of frightening thing of, oh, I have to build like a good team culture, if you really distill it, it just comes down to like meet and like
Yeah.
try to have some fun and get to know each other and like have good people in there. Is that
Yeah.
accurate, would you say? Or?
Yeah, totally. Like you don't need to overthink team culture. It's just like, are we friends? That's basically it. you know, there's kind of like friends with expectations, right? Again, we are a business and we want to perform. But when you're all performing and everyone's happy, it's like we're all looking at each other like hell yeah, and this person's like hell yeah, and this person's like hell yeah, and it's just you're continually climbing together. So that's good. And I think my only other note on that or asterisk is when it's not a fit and when it's not a good vibe, just try and be quick with correcting that situation. That might mean exiting somebody, but it's usually pretty clear when they're on the wrong bus and you're going one direction and they don't want to go there. So sometimes that happens and it's okay. Try and make it as amicable as possible and no hard feelings. But a person that's not excited to be around will unfortunately bring everyone else down. So you just got to be, as a manager, as a business owner, cognizant of that, what's happening, and make decisions for the team.
So a final question then on this topic is like, how important is like that team in like building something like this or building a business?
It's all the team. I mean, it's like we wouldn't be able to do what we do without a really solid team, and everyone contributes as best they can every day. And everyone's got different skill sets, like on the engineering side, some guys are great on the back end code base and infrastructure. Others are great on the front end. Others are great QA engineers. On the product side, we have designers and product people who are out there. It is a team. It's very important. It's mostly a team sport. Building a company.
And I actually have one final question on this topic, which I think a lot of people are wondering.
Ask away.
What do you think is the best first hire for somebody who runs a Skool community?
Someone who runs a Skool community, boy, I don't know if I have that answer, honestly. Again, I would encourage you to think about what pain you're experiencing and what problem you're facing. It might be, it might be a community manager, could be, who knows? It might be a co-founder. If you're an influencer, it might be a growth operator. It might be someone to help you with the business. If you're a growth guy, it might be an influencer. You know what I mean? To help bring more traffic. So I don't have a clear, one line answer for that, but other than just listen to the pain and try and resolve that. Yeah.
And so then if like before we end this interview, do you have anything you want to like share with people about like where can they find more about you, if that's even possible, or is there anything about Skool you want to share, or like literally anything and everything?
Boy, I think if you want to get to know me more or whatever, you can just hit me up on Skool. That's usually the easiest way. If you're in Skool, that's skool.com/community. Join it. I'm in there. All pretty much the whole Skool team is in there. You can hit us up. You can post. You can send us a DM. Happy to chat with you. And as far as Skool goes, I think it's somewhat of a blanket answer, but we're really excited to have everybody on the platform. We're like super stoked with where it's going. It's less about us. It's more about you. So like the creators and the members make the platform ultimately. It's not so much us just deciding what happens, and it happens. We really react to you. So thanks for everyone for being on, and please send us more of your feedback. Always glad to hear it. We like to think we build it together with you guys. So that's kind of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick, for your time. I truly appreciate it.
Dude, thanks so much, Max. You have a great day.